Hello, everybody, and good morning. My name is Christian Wattinger from Vega, and I have the pleasure to welcome you today. Also, the crowd, hopefully on the YouTube stream that we could make working right now. So, welcome, everybody. First of all, I would like to say just a very few words about Vega, your host today. So, in the center of Vega is really building the bridge between business and IT. That's really the core value that we have. Our business that we are focusing on is the pharma and life science business, and we have many people in the company who very well understand all these processes that are relevant there, from the lab, from the research to the development, and also to operations and production. So we really have these people, and they also have the knowledge of the informatics, so we can really combine those two aspects to the benefit of our customers. So Vega has been founded 26 years ago. We have currently around 70-ish employees, and those employees are organized in 4 competence focus groups, basically. So the first one is the Lab and Research Informatics group, headed by Daniel Juchli. So you can find him there in the second row. You can talk to him later. So he's all about lab information management systems, lab execution system, lab automation, all these processes in the research, and the lab, electronic lab notebooks, etc. So we support you there in these areas. Then the next group is the clinical development group. There we have a very new group head, Nicolas Schaltenbrand. He's here today as well, the guy over there. And he will also be very glad to talk to you afterwards at the coffee. So his group is really focusing on the clinical development informatics, all these processes for the studies and bringing medicine to production, basically. Then my own group basically is the informatics solutions. So we have the guys that are technically focused. We have project managers, we have business analysts, we have programmers, we have agile experts. So we have a big mix of really more the technical and the experts that we also use to support really the other groups and really make sure that we can provide the full service. Then we have also the computer system validations and quality assurance group, which is also very important in the clinical development areas and also productions of medicines or medical devices, that everything needs to be validated to be used at all. And what's most important, we all work very closely together so that we can really close this 360 degrees and really provide everything out of one hand. So let me quickly mention a few events which are upcoming in the next quarter. So the very first one is in Basel. It's on the 21st of January. There we are sponsoring this event about Digital ID 2020. This is about digitalization and infectious diseases, improving patients' outcome in the age of big data. So that can be quite interesting. You will also meet Nicolas there, I believe. And so this is the first one. Then another one where we will have a talk is in Berlin in March at the European Sample Management Symposium. The topic there will be about blockchain use cases in this area. And then for Vega, a very important one is the Analytica, where we have a few talks and quite a big presence there around Daniel Juchli. And it's the world's leading trade fair for laboratory technology, analysis, biotechnology, and the Analytica conference over there. So that's just a little bit of an outlook. Then, yes, it's a breakfast, so what would we recommend for breakfast. So as usual, it's about food for the brain and for the body. So first of all, we like to inspire you with an interesting talk, which will come up in a few minutes. And so we can do some learning. Then after that, getting together, exchange news, do some networking. I think you started that already, so that's very good. And last but not least, we will have croissant and fruits and coffee to enjoy. So let me quickly come to the speakers. Maybe I'll ask them to the stage already, Matthias and John. So we're very glad to have John here as our guest speaker. I think at Vega, we met him at a very big project, at a very big customer, which was also validated. So this was a very a good thing. Some people might know him already from there. So John specializes in behavior development, and he is the founder of NobleWorks, a consultancy for digital transformation and leadership. And he's also the founder of Florister, a NetTech startup for social workplace learning. So Florister grew out of his research into cultural and behavior development and in dynamic and highly autonomous organizations. So in 2016, he founded Florister with a mission to change the way individuals, teams, and organizations transform and develop. So thanks a lot for being here, John.
Thank you.
Matthias is a Scrum Master, an IT consultant at Vega, and since 2011, he's a co-moderator of the Agile Breakfast Basel by the Swiss ICT Lean Agile Scrum Expert Group. And for some years now, he has been dealing professionally and privately with the reasons for success or failure in the introduction of agile software development, methodologies, and agile transformations. So I'm looking very much forward to your talk, and the stage is yours. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can I have? Thank you very much, Christian, for this wonderful introduction. Also from my side, a warm welcome, good morning, and I'm really happy again that we have so much people here so early in the morning. Some of you I know, there's some new faces today, I like that. So I would like to begin in time because we are already 5 minutes late. Just a few words for introduction. Today, it will be something a bit unusual. I don't want to say more. So on my part, we do it together today, John and myself. I will do an introductory part, and John will do the fun part afterwards. So be prepared. Okay, let's start. We need to be more agile. This is something I, at least, or maybe also you, heard a couple of times, and I hear it more and more often from a lot of customers, from people I talk to, and everybody wants to be more agile. It seems to be a kind of a hype at the moment. The question is why. So if you ask people, why do you want to become more agile? What's the reason for it? The answers for that are very, very diverse. It could be people telling, oh, look, our last 2 projects, they were a complete disaster. We had problems in planning and this one. We ran out of budget, so I heard we should become agile. This helps. It could be that people say, look, our competitors are agile, we are not, so we just have to be also agile, otherwise we are behind the other ones. It could be that senior management understands agility as a way of doing more with less. So it's a good thing to do. It saves money. Various reasons to become more agile, and everybody wants to do it. a very good way to start, or a usual way to start with it, is by training people in Scrum, for example. Getting your people Scrum certified, which is a great idea in my opinion, especially if you do it via Vega training, of course, because that's the best ones. It's a very good idea, but it's not enough. And this is what we are going to talk about today, or try to give you an impression. So, when I became a Scrum Master and I did the Scrum certification, I read the Scrum guides, the official Scrum guide. And on the first 1 or 2 pages, you find a couple of terms, so tiny little terms like complex, like self-organizing, like empowerment or empowered. In fact, the Scrum guide itself is 19 pages. It shows you can do a Scrum certification if you're good in, let's say, 2 days. Read through it, do some exercises, do the online certification. Within 2 to 3 days, you can be Scrum certified. That's not a problem. The problem starts when we think about what that means. Complexity. What is complexity? And most people don't think about it. And today we would like to focus on these kind of things. What's behind this process, behind these methods? Why does Scrum work? And normally I have such a small toy here, which is a chaos pendulum. I have it in the office today because I thought today, for this kind of event, it might be easier to show a video because it's better to see. So before I started, it's a short one. It's just a few seconds. So have a look what happens. There's 2 phases in this video. In phase 1, you will have a very simple behavior. And then they change very slightly the whole construction, and something happens. And now we watch the video. So as you can see, it's one pendulum, and it's linked to each other. It's quite easy. It's a very simple equation to calculate. You can calculate what will happen. You can calculate where it will be. And then, you see, they did a slight modification. They just cut one of these stripes, and then they cut the second one. It's still more or less the same construction with very small changes. And you see the difference. The difference is in behavior. The first step, in the first phase we had, we could really calculate. This is a nice, it just looks nice. And it shows the movement, and it really, you can see that, or it proves that it's not predictable what will happen. So what we just saw is one of the bases of why we need to be more agile. This is a complex behavior. In the first part, we had a system that we could predict. Okay? So we can really easily calculate what will happen. If we do small modifications, the system will turn into something which is not predictable anymore. We cannot calculate where this thing will be at a certain point in time. It's not possible. With a very small, with a very simple construction, but it's impossible to predict. And this is an important thing. And this is a picture I took from a book from Jürgen Appelo, Management 3.0, something I really recommend. And he shows really the core problem, because we have to divide between system behavior and system construction. Systems can be very simple in behavior, in construction, but they can be chaotic, not predictable. They can be very complicated in construction, like a Swiss watch, for example, which is quite complicated, but it's predictable. I always know where the small parts of the clockwork are. And the main thing is, and then we have something in between, which is complex. I will show that later. But the main reason for that is to divide. you need to know in which system we are. Okay? And the behavior of the system is important for us. It's not the construction. Another thing I've also shown a couple of times before is Cynefin framework by Dave Snowden. He divided these systems that are possible into 4 different types, which are simple ones, complicated, complex, and chaotic. These are the 4 system types that we can separate in between. And it's important to know that, these 2, they have something in common. They're ordered. They're linear. They're predictable. Okay? So they have they have different ways of controlling these systems, of managing these systems. In this case, it's very simple. It's sense, categorize, respond. I observe something. I know how the system behaves because it's simple, obvious for everybody to understand, and I can respond, and I can manage this system. In this case, it's a bit more complicated. I need these kind of subject matter experts. For example, a clockwork is something that only an expert in constructing clockworks can repair. I can't do it. Normal people cannot do it. You need really this deep subject matter expertise. But you still can do it, and you can predict, and you can manage that kind of systems. The chaotic ones, there's no relationship between cause and effect. Here we have a clear relationship between cause and effect. Cause, effect, always the same. In chaotic, there's no relationship. There's some kind of, in these systems, there's some kind of cause, and it has some kind of effect. And for us, there's no chance to see what happens. This one is somehow in between. It has a lot of, it's connected in between, and it has some causes in the system, but the causes we cannot not really easily predict like in that way on the ordered one. We'll see it later. Another interesting aspect that we should consider comes from Peter Kruse. Unfortunately, he already passed away much too early from my perspective. But he formulated a thesis where he said, okay, self-escalating systems, like complex or chaotic systems, there's 3 factors that foster that system behavior. And the first one is a high connectivity. I need to have a system which is highly connected with each other. The elements of the system need to be connected. The second one is reaction coupling. I need to have some kind of construction or mechanism where the elements in this system are able to interact with each other in some way. And the third one is spontaneous activity. I need to have the possibility to stimulate this system somehow. And if these 3 factors come together, then we have the systems tend to be self-escalating, chaotic, complex, not predictable. And the interesting thing is, because we need to identify in which system we are to be able to manage it. And the interesting thing is, if we look what we have done in the last couple of years, by just introducing the internet, last 20 years we have increased dramatically the connectivity. Now we're talking about Industry 4.0, Web 2.0, and Internet of Things. So we are highly connected amongst each other. And we are still increasing the connectivity, still, every day. So this one, tick. Reaction coupling, we have... no, that's spontaneous activity. That's vice versa. Spontaneous activity, we have features of Web 2.0. So everybody today has the possibility to post some information, to activate, to stimulate this system from outside, very easily. And we have reaction coupling. Because if we look at what we do with sharing functions, with retweet functions, with like buttons, each element in this system is able to interact with other systems. And we have first, second, third level connectivity. So what we have done is we created a self-escalating complex system just by introducing the internet. I answered the question already. My perspective, if we ask where we are, in which system we are, there's a very high probability that we really are in a complex system with that non-predictable behavior. How to handle that? I mean, if we are there now, we see we have a problem we can't predict, but we have to do something. What to do? One thing we normally tend to do, and we're really good at that, due to our history, is trying to rationally understand that things are changing all the day, and just wait. Things will go away, there will be other changes, and I just do nothing. This is something we do every day. I mean, if you want to buy a new TV set, do you think you have a chance to really understand all the aspects of this new TV, all the technical features? You're looking for the best TV for you, but there's so much information. It's not possible. So what you do? We reduce to a few major aspects. It's price, normally. Maybe the brand. I heard that is a good brand, so I get it for a cheap price, I buy it. It's 4K and that's it. So 3 aspects out of a lot. Or we use this one, we trust our gut feeling. Something we do by purpose or not by purpose. It's a very powerful instrument, trust your gut feeling. But you need to know how it works. It comes from experience. So if you have the wrong experience, then you will make the wrong decisions here. And, I mean, who of you is going to tell your manager that you're making a decision based on your gut feeling? Don't think so. So, again, we have talked about these systems, and it's really important to divide these 3 types of systems. First, we had the ordered systems. It's the simple ones, okay? Simple doesn't mean obvious. Simple means predictable, linear, manageable, okay? With or without subject matter experts, doesn't matter. But the approach is plan and control. I know what will happen, get the right people, you are able to plan, and you are able to control it, do it. So waterfall is a perfect approach for these kind of systems. This one, chaotic, is on the other extreme side. So it's not manageable at all. We don't have a chance to manage these kind of systems. If we are in a chaotic environment and we realize that the first thing should be to stabilize it as soon as and as far as possible. Of course, I can make use of it in some controlled environments for creating novel approaches. This might be a very powerful tool, but I need to know and I need to control it. And there's this something in between which is called complex, and this is somehow manageable. Not by waterfall, by plan, command, control, but by something else. It's adaptation, self-organization. This is a thing that, for example, Scrum, Holacracy, Safe, all these agile frameworks are implementing. Okay? It's based on empirism. I don't know everything right from the beginning. I start with what I know, and knowledge comes from experience. So, important to see the difference and to know what we can do. And this one, thanks to Lorenz, who had a great idea to put this one together, because this brings some aspects really to the point. We need to separate or divide between doing agile and being agile. Doing agile, as I said before, is not that hard. Become a Scrum Master in 3 days. You know the process. You can do it. But be agile. But by the way, I heard that it's not scientifically correct anymore, maybe, that you divide the left brain and the right brain by logical and emotional tasks. I don't know. I heard it. But it doesn't matter. It's not that important. Important thing is that this one can be done very fast, quite fast. This one takes time. It's hard. It takes time. And because this one is about mindset transformation. It's about changing people, transforming people, changing behavior. And here we have the classical things that we learn from Scrum. It's inspection, adaptation, empirism, and delivery. We have, as I said, these practices like SAFe, Scrum, and all these frameworks that we can learn. But how we actually execute then our project is very individual. I have seen really few implementation of real Scrum as it's described in the book or by the Scrum guide. It's always adaptations. Here we have the Agile values, okay? And this is for me, it's much more important to live these kind of values. And this is the basis for all successful implementations. And it takes time. And this is now, I think, a good time to hand over to John.
Thank you, Matthias. Now, Matthias explained us a lot about complex systems. Now, we are a complex system as well, with our body, with our ideas and thoughts and beliefs and all the things that are turning around in our heads. Now, the interesting part is not just talk about complex system as something it's far away and I'm just something outside, but to try to experiment with it to be part of that complex system and complex system behavior. And that's what I'd like to kind of invite you during the next few minutes to kind of start experimenting with that and not just listening to me what I'm talking about. So Matthias talked about mindsets. Maybe you have heard about these agile mindsets. There are people who are talking about dynamic mindsets. Or Carol Dweck, the researcher and professor of Harvard, is talking about a fixed and a growth-oriented mindset. And that's kind of what I'd like to do right now. I'd like to invite you to a first little experiment. It's not going to be a big thing, but that's why you have some cards with you on the table or on the chair and and a note pen, for example. And I'd like you to kind of come up or remember a situation where you felt yourself in a fixed mindset. And what is a fixed mindset? Let me quickly explain that maybe on my own experience. The first time when I had to kind of speak before a big audience like you, I put myself extremely under pressure. I had the feeling, if I don't make it good, I will lose my career. My career is going to end. So I was extremely nervous, and of course, I entered the stage. I tried to do my best. I ended. I survived. I stepped down of the stage, and of course, I was totally frustrated. I was kind of evaluating what I was doing. And I was telling myself, hey, you did a wrong story. You were not in contact. So it was totally frustrating. And what I did was actually nothing else than I had these typical inner dialogues where I put myself in a fixed mindset. Like, hey, shit happens, but you're not good at that. You can't do that. You will never learn that. There are so many people who are great speakers. You will never be this person. And of course, I tried, but still, I evaluated myself, and I felt terrible. These fixed mindsets, they just happen because based of our personality, of our nature, of what we think. Maybe you find a situation where you found yourself in a similar kind of mindset. Please think about it for a second and make a note so we have something to talk about afterwards. So please find your situation where you experienced yourself in a fixed mindset. And of course, we're not always in the same fixed mindset. But if you have something like a fixed mindset, then probably you also need something to have on the other side, which we'll just talk about in a second, which is called the growth mindset. And we all experience both of these mindsets. It's nothing that we're not just a person focusing always in one mindset. It really depends on the situation that we experience. Okay? Everyone got an idea first? Then let's step into the second slide or the second step of this exercise. No, wrong. Here we go, which is, of course, the growth mindset. Now, the growth mindset is something that is much more appealing to us because it gives us the idea that maybe I can't do it right now, but if I practice just long enough, I might be pretty okay. So if you ever have experienced this idea, like there's this challenging project coming onto you, and maybe you don't really feel safe or you don't have the experience already to do it as a pro or as a professional, but you'd like to do it, and you start doing it, and you have that feeling that, hey, well, it's a huge mountain, but I can climb it, and I can become a pro if I just practice. Then you're in that kind of growth mindset. You're in a mindset of, hey, yeah, I can learn it. I can just dive into it, and I can make my way through, and after a while, I'll get better and better. So the typical dialogues are, for example, yeah, I can't do it yet, but if I practice, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to do it. When you started, Matthias, as a Scrum Master, maybe you were not that secure in the beginning, but if you have the mindset, the idea of let's just dive into it and then just train and do and practice, I'll grow and become a Scrum Master later. So please try to find out one situation where you experienced yourself in one of those growth mindsets. And just make a little note so it's easier to discuss. All right, then I'd like to warmly invite you to our little experiment. It might fail, as experiments sometimes do, but we'll find out. So I'd like to give you a mission. And the first step of that mission is that you find someone that is at least 1 meter away. So please don't gather around with the person just next by you, but find someone maybe in the next row, someone you're not sitting side by side, ideally even someone you don't know, because that would be even more interesting. And then introduce yourself very quickly in a few seconds, and then start discussing these fixed and growth mindsets. But first, you take off your shoes, you stay on the chairs, and then you start to kind of share your experiences regarding your fixed and growth mindsets. And then, of course, try to identify what kind of patterns are maybe behind these growth mindsets. Maybe you can exchange that. Maybe you'll find some beliefs, some attitudes that will kind of give you the feeling of, why do we have this fixed or growth mindsets? You have 7 minutes from now. Please, feel free. Okay. Thank you so much. Please take a seat. Thank you very much for your participation and your courage. Thank you. Let me ask you a few questions about what just happened. First, which mindset came up when you understood you should take off your shoes? What happened? Did anything happen? Please.
The floor is cold.
Okay, yeah. Yes, exactly. What else? Exactly, you skip it. So, no, I'm not going to do this. What else? Let's try, exactly. So why not try it? Why skip it, for example? What was the reason to skip it?
I didn't see any reason for me.
No reason to do that. Okay. Before you just started to share and kind of opened and share your vulnerabilities about the fixed mindset, did any feelings kind of come up? Did you had some maybe shame or fear to talk about the fixed mindset? Because that's maybe nothing that we're extremely proud of talking to. No feelings coming up at that time? So you're all extremely open then.
It's interesting if you're just said this, because I feel like it's much easier to open up to a complete stranger, because I don't know if I ever meet that person again.
Yeah.
If it has any weight or so. I mean, if you go to a psychologist, it's a complete stranger, and you open up your darkest secrets.
Great point. Thank you so much. And how do you feel now? Did anything change, really? Are you feeling bad, or how do you feel? Like, okay, yeah, it didn't change anything. So actually, by just trying to do, let's say, a few strange things and getting into contact with each other, it doesn't really harm you at all. So what does that say? Or what does this experiment tell us about complex systems and how we could deal with complex systems? Let me explain that maybe in a few slides during the next few minutes. Now, I like Ron's statement. Ron Heifetz is a Harvard professor, and his statement to say the most common leadership failure stems from attempting to apply technical solutions to adaptive challenges. That's kind of what we just did. We didn't work on a technical change or on a technical problem. Actually, what we did is something highly adaptive, because we're, as complex system, came together and started in a dialogue, exchanging things that are heartsome, that we have feelings about, that are not so simple to actually exchange. And I got two examples that I'd like to show to you. Well, I had this idea of changing the lifestyle and exercising more. And of course, a very simple idea would be to, what do I need as a typical European guy? I probably just need a bike, a helmet, and nice shoes. And then I probably are able to change my lifestyle. Well, it didn't really work, to be honest. Even though I had all the equipment, the belly issue didn't really change a lot. So probably that's not the real way to change or to a more better lifestyle. To change to a better lifestyle, we probably have to kind of start a different learning. Because probably I also can't do it on my own. And I have to exchange my my eating habits. I have to maybe change how when I get up and when I start exercising. I probably need some support from my partners and friends to really get there, and even maybe it would be nice to not do it just alone, because otherwise maybe in a few weeks I'll just stop it and I'll just hang my bike somewhere on the wall and say, yeah, that was it for a while. So to really change my lifestyle, so which could be an adaptive challenge, I need more than just a solution. I have to kind of find a different way how to cope with that. So a different way of learning. The second part, it's pretty easy to kind of manage your blood pressure. You have a tool for that, you can analyze it, but how can you kind of motivate young people stop, drink and drive? For this, well, of course, we can talk about a solution, which is maybe a sensor in a car that is kind of monitoring your breathing in, breathing out, the breath, for example, and then identifying whether you were able to start with the car or not. But actually, it doesn't prevent people or young people to stop drinking. So actually, if you would like to change that way of stop drinking, you have to involve them. You have to kind of, and Ron Haythe is talking about a second order change. Now, what is this exactly? What is a second order change, and what is a different way of learning? How can we do this? Now, the first thing is actually this second order change is about getting new experiences, like we just did before. Even though not all of you, of course, stepped on the chair and did that discussion, still you have that experience with you. You started to exchange to each other. It was kind of maybe for some of you, maybe not even confrontational, but at least it was something that you're not used to do normally, to get to know other people in such a quick time and then exchange things that are important to you, things that you have experienced. So actually, second order change means trying to create different learning experiences, different settings like we have here. So to kind of motivate people and to much more to bring in new emotional settings that people are opening up for new experiences. When you ever train people on Scrum, or you'd like to bring in a new idea of agile work, then try to find settings that are totally different from what you do already. And it's okay if there is conflicts involved. Because the idea is to really, as a complex system, to work out those conflicts, to step into these conflicts and discuss them, to kind of give them the room to really be there. And the second part, second order change, the second part, different learning, and that is kind of what you all know inside the Agile world, which is one side, probe. Try to experiment with things in a complex world. Try to just do it and find out what happens. Then, if you do it, then sense about it, what it does with you and what it does with your surroundings. We're not going to do peer or partner therapy here, but actually you can easily test it at home. Try out new things. Let's do cooking, something new. And let's just find out how your partner behaves when eating it, for example. And you'll find out whatever happens, you can respond to that. And responding to change or to even these exchanges of complex system is always trying new settings, for example, but also try to give this learning a first step and an experiment and probe. And that's actually what we also try to do when we are working with this app that we created with Florister. What we try to do is actually we try to build up social workplace learning. So how can we change learning in the flow of work? And what do we need as humans to be open for new settings, to be open for this exchange that is very relationship-oriented? And what we know from research is actually what we need is we have to create a psychological safe space. We have to kind of be able to control the space or to be in contact with people that we trust. and to get feedback from people that we trust. But we have to be in control of that. We need to be able to choose them freely. It's not my boss that is kind of creating the team, and you have to do it with the team, but you should be actually able to use or to create these bondings, to create these relationships with the people that you trust. And that's actually what we also do inside the Agile work. Let's say when you do a retrospective, you can do it in a team, but you can also do it in little groups of two. And where you find yourself and kind of also exchange what went well, what went maybe not as well. And here you are actually then, of course, working on deliberate practice. What is it actually that we'd like to improve? You bring in maybe even your own goals. You learn about the experiments together in a social setting. You reflect about it, and you construct reality. And by constructing reality with a new setting, with these nice loops that we have inside the Agile world, we create new experiences. We connect them with new emotions. But we have to have a psychological safe space. Otherwise, we don't even start to experiment. So building trusted networks, building relationships with people inside the team, sharing ideas, experiences, even personal things is extremely important, because that is actually the base that we as complex systems are able to connect and to start working on the, let's say, on the relations each other, on the discussion in a dialogue, for example. Summary already? Not yes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Great. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Summary. We are already at the end, huh?
Already.
We could go on for 2 more hours, but back to science. I know there are some scientists here, so all we said has also a scientific background. And what you just said about increasing connectivity to handle this kind of systems is a very important aspect. And there has been a guy called Ross Ashby, and he published a quite famous paper in 1958 already, which is quite famous already today, when we talk about how to manage and handle these complex systems. I mean, you can download it. This is a very scientific paper. It's about entropy and degrees of freedom, and I understand 50% of it. I would need more time to really completely understand it, but it's not important about the equations. If you read it and if you understand it, you can condense the information into the following sentence. And he says, the solution of a complex problem should have at least the same level. The solution of a complex problem should have at least the same level of complexity than the problem itself. Okay, and that's exactly what you, for example, said. Increasing connectivity, increasing the variety. Another visualization of this statement is shown here. So if I say I have this one on the left side, this is a system I would like to control. And to control something, I need something that controls this system. So if I have here a high degree of variety in my system that I would need to control, and I have a system to control it which has a lower degree of variety, the system will be unstable, according to Ashby. And also according to reality, by the way. So we have two options. We need to reach this stable situation. We have two options. I mean, we can decrease the variety of our system that we would like to control. So if you're able to control the market, if you're able to control your employees and everything, then you might have a chance. But this is sometimes a bit tricky to control market and everything. So there's a second option. And we have to increase the variety of our controlling system. And this is something we can do by, for example, increasing connectivity. So I think we could say managing this instability is related or more or less the same than managing this complexity. And it's not an SOP that we can give, but it's a kind of, it's some advices. If you want to deal with a system that has a high connectivity, you have to increase your connectivity to deal with it. You have to increase diversity to create novel innovation, get new ideas, get tensions within the teams. Complex systems are intransparent, so you have to increase transparency. And this is one of the base pillars of Scrum. Transparency. Self-organization. A complex system is not manageable by one people telling this system what to do. It's emerging. Okay, so foster your self-organization in your company. Normally you have good people in your company. They know what to do. Have a feedback culture for reaction coupling in the system. Foster this kind of feedback culture, openness, all the agile values. Rethink established processes. I know it's sometimes hard. We have, after 5 years, we have found our process and it works. Now we are done. I don't think so. We're not done. We always have to rethink about what we're doing. Okay? And accept uncertainty, because this is the new normal. If we like it or not, but I'm convinced it is. Would you? Okay, so to sum it up, this last one, we need this kind of new learning. We need this kind of new approaches to handle these new challenges coming from complexity that we are faced with. Let's use this collective intelligence. We have we have good ideas. We have good people in the team, and we need to bring up all the power of each individual in the team. Then we have really a benefit, which means we need to create systems and interventions that foster this second order change that John just talked about. And that's it for today from my perspective. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much to the speakers, Matthias, John. It was a very interesting talk, and I'm sure you might have some questions. I'm also having my iPad here for any questions on the live stream. So I think we have people from England and from Hamburg and so on. So feel free to ask some questions. And that the guys on the live stream also understand the questions. I ask the speakers to repeat the questions or you guys to use the microphone. I'm happy to bring it to you. So do you have any questions? Yeah. Nicolas.
Thank you for the very interesting, energetic presentation, Matthias and John. Just a quick question for you, John, regarding what you mentioned, the second order change and things like that. So you need to create a positive environment. So you didn't cover the feedback and the positive feedback we need to give when we failed. So can you just try to elaborate a little bit regarding, so I know you try to follow the agile process, but is there anything regarding the feedback of the people around you when you manage connectivity to learn quicker and also to be more confident regarding what you are doing in the future?
Yes, absolutely. So your question is about how does feedback interrelate with this second order change and the agility itself. We know from research that actually for every, let's say, critical or negative feedback, great teams have at least 4 to 6 times more positive feedback. So whenever you try to, let's say, to be critical about something that you'd like to change, keep in mind that you should do much more positive, should give much more positive feedback based on that, because then you are being much more motivated and even though becoming more effective if you have a higher pace on positive feedbacks. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be critical, but it should be a ratio. that should be higher than just giving always the critical feedback. Does that answer your question?
Sounds like pair therapy.
Once again.
Any more remarks or questions, feedback? Also, everybody's hungry, I believe. So a big thank you again. And thank you to you as well for coming, sharing the breakfast with us. Also, thank you for the guys on the YouTube stream.
Do we have questions on the stream, maybe?
Oh, yes, I invited the questions, so I should check. No questions. So everything was crystal clear.
Oh.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.